This is Larry Zbyszko, wrestling's living legend, and you're listening to WGD Weekly, Steve and The Scum.
Hey, what's up, all you savages? Thanks so much for tuning in once again to WGD Weekly with Steve and The Scum. It's been a very entertaining week, Scum, a very interesting week. We had a special edition that we weren't quite planning on with Ken Shamrock. Turns out, Scum, it's our most popular episode to date.
Absolutely. Like I say, some people think it's just a tagline. Hard to deny this week that Wrestling's Glory Days Weekly, Steve and the Scum, are the latest sensation that's sweeping the wrestling radio nation. If I could sum up that feedback, I think we had about 1,000 people on Friday that watched or listened to our show, our interview with Ken Shamrock. It blew up all over the internet. If I could channel my inner JR, I think that his response to that show that aired in the middle of the week with the special edition Shamrock interview, let me think what he might say. How about Shamrock, Shamrock, Shamrock? About sum it up, you think, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. It's a super heavyweight show today, Scum. We got Fred Ottman, the Tugboat, the Typhoon. He's with us. Super heavyweight time, Scum. A couple of guys that come to mind immediately for me. Of course, you go old school, Glory Days of Wrestling. You got to talk King Kong Bundy. You got to talk Big John Studd, and of course the legendary Andre the Giant. So many super heavyweights to choose from, and certainly some of my favorite guys ever come out of that weight class.
Absolutely, Steve. The list goes on and on. I mean, pretty much anyone who challenged Hulk Hogan in the WWF between 1985 and 90, with the exception of maybe Roddy Piper and Randy Savage. I mean, look at all those big men, whether it was Kamala or whether it was our guest today's longtime tag team partner, the Earthquake. It's a heck of a big man. Personally, one of my favorites of all time, yours too, I know, is Big Vader, former world champion. Not many of these big guys that actually wore the strap, but Vader could move and he could just brutalize somebody. So you got to put Vader in that big man conversation. Another one that often gets forgotten, the late, great Bam Bam Bigelow. Now, I know maybe toward the end at WCW, we had Brian Clark on not too long ago. He mentioned that Bam Bam wasn't necessarily his old self, but look back to his early days. Look at that first Survivor Series when he came in WWF and was 3-on-1 against Andre and Bundy and the gang, classic big man stuff. And Bam Bam fought all the way back, eliminated the gang, eliminated Bundy before going down to Andre to keep the Hogan-Andre feud going. But Bam Bam Bigelow, one of the greatest big men ever, too. Take a look at his series with Bret Hart when Bret first won the title. Real agile. Him and Vader, both really agile for that size, and just can't deny their place in the spot of big man history.
Absolutely, Scum. I can't disagree with you for a second there. And another guy, speaking of Bret Hart, that had a great feud with him a couple times off and on. You remember WrestleMania 9 and the controversy with Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart. Of course, the legendary late, great Yokozuna, another, maybe one of the superest heavyweights of all time and former WWF champion. Certainly was a nimble guy for being 6'20". I believe Lex Luger told us he weighed 627 pounds on an airport scale, and the only thing that could hold him.
Absolutely. Yokozuna, great choice, Steve. Great choice. I mean, that side kick, the super kick that he would give, you can't deny the speed. Amazing that you could say the speed of a 600-pound man, but I mean, the guy was pretty agile for a big dude out there.
Absolutely, and like you said, Scum, back in the day when Hulk Hogan was knocking everybody down, I think another favorite of ours was, and you mentioned him real briefly, Kamala, another great guy from the glory days of pro wrestling that is often not mentioned in the right context, I don't think, anymore, but boy, was he someone to be feared. Legendary battles with Hogan, legendary battles with Andre the Giant. That guy was great.
Absolutely. And Steve, I mean, you can vouch for me on this one many times. Just when I'm sitting around the house, I paint a couple of stars and moons on my belly and slap it to the beat of that classic theme music. You know the tune.
Absolutely. I got it in my iPod. And another thing, mentioning that, it's the same theme song. You know, Scum, and we've talked about this on the show before, we always have a soft spot for anybody or anything that just simply screams, ah. Just like our guest this past week, Ken Shamrock, certainly known for screaming, ah, but another guy that screams a little bit something different, and that is Toot Toot, and that's the Tugboat, Fred Ottman. He's with us today, so we got that show on deck. Is there anything you want to add before we go to our show?
Yeah, just wanted to give a few thanks here, Steve. I wanted to give a call out to some of the sites that picked up on our Shamrock interview. Wrestling Observer and Figure 4 Weekly was the first to break our interview with Shamrock. His wish is to come back to TNA and WWE, and the controversial tagline that everyone was using about him questioning whether he was blackballed. Wrestling Inc. is another site that had a really nice write-up that covered us, got our name out there. Online World of Wrestling had a huge story with our name right in the banner headline, so we'd like to thank them. Another shout-out to our friends up north, up in the Northeast, the Midnight Jury podcast. Those guys have been real supportive of us, getting our word out for us as part of the Shining Wizards Network, which I know you're a big fan of, Steve, and a lot of respect for the Midnight Jury and those boys, a lot of respect for the Shining Wizards Network. Everybody, if you get a chance, check them out. Check out all their shows, all their podcasts. Great stuff, great variety, and they've all been very supportive of WGD Weekly. Like I always say, it's great to be on here every week with my longtime tag team partner. That's you, Steve. It's always great to be working alongside the Class Act and all the guys, the team over at Wrestling's Glory Days, bringing the best in old school wrestling on Facebook and the best page on Facebook going as far as that genre of wrestling goes. And it's good to have some partners that support us pretty much across the internet wrestling community, Steve.
It is, and I'm glad that you mentioned the boys over at Wrestling's Glory Days. I wanted to make sure that we thank them. They've been extremely supportive, especially recently. We got, of course, that Ken Shamrock interview, like we've been discussing here, made quite a few waves, and almost everybody had given us credit for that, and there's a couple of outlets that were a little hazy as to where the information came from, and our partners over there, Wrestling Glory Days, Dave and a couple of the other guys, they made sure that, Wrestling's Glory Days were the ones where this came from. Of course, Scum, very proud to be a part of them. It's been a year for me. I know it's been a couple months for you, Scum. It's the best wrestling site on Facebook. We always bring you unadulterated information, stories, facts, little pictures, factoids, all this stuff, the little cool stuff that you sometimes miss when you were watching pro wrestling as a kid. The Glory Days of Wrestling, of course, we cover that exclusively, nothing really to the new end of things, so I'm very happy to be a part of that outlet, and it's been an amazing ride so far. And again, we got another quality interview coming up with us right now, and that is Fred Ottman. So I wanted to get right down to business. It's a crazy afternoon here. We're recording on a Saturday afternoon. We're going to release this tomorrow morning for everybody to listen to. So I wanted to thank you once again for listening. And Scum, without further ado, let's take it to that Tugboat interview with Fred Ottman. Okay, folks, we got Fred Ottman with us today, Tugboat, Typhoon, and, of course, the legendary Shockmaster. We're going to talk about a lot of things about his career. We're going to get right down to business. Fred, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you very much for having me on, man.
Awesome. Well, we'll get right down to business. Like I said, by all accounts, you debuted in professional wrestling in Memphis territory, the CWA, and your moniker was Big Bubba at the time. You had quite a bit of success there early in your career as you were a heavyweight champion, a two-time tag team champion in your time there. How did you get your foot in the door down in Memphis? And for that matter, where and when did Fred Ottman decide that wrestling was the career path he wanted to pursue? And then how exactly did you get started in the ring?
I came to Memphis from Texas, which is where I broke in. That was my first territory. I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida. I used to train in a gym in Coral Gables. They were owned by an ex-football player and his brother. And all the wrestlers, a good majority of them, when they used to wrestle at either the Miami Beach Convention Center or down in Coconut Grove, they used to train at the gym I trained at. And I'd see them from time to time whenever they were down there, and they'd talk with me and everything like that, and try and put the bug in my ear about, hey, man, you ever thought about wrestling and this and that? And I wrestled amateur in high school. I was young then. I was like 18, 19, just graduating out of high school. And I told him, I thought, I wrestled, I played football. ran track and field, and they told me about Malenko, the great Malenko, having a school on the weekends in Fort Lauderdale, and man, you should go by and check it out. So I eventually got thought about it. I've always been a big wrestling fan. Went up and checked it out, and liked what I saw. I met Dean and Jody Malenko, as well as the great Malenko was there, and several other guys that were either training in school or that were assisting in training. And I liked it, enjoyed it, and next thing you know, I was doing it on the weekends. Probably about 5-6 months later, I got the bug and moved to Tampa, where him and Malenko and Carl von Stroheim had their main wrestling school, where I have access to it 6-7 days a week. I train every day. So I was working out, training, and working, and I did that for about a year and a half. They used to run a lot of independent shows up there, so I get experience in front of people. I mean, I wrestled in a variety of different venues, everywhere from flea markets to outdoor rodeo arenas, and several other different places all over that area in northern Florida. And he got me, finally got a invitation from to go up to Atlanta when NWA was right before WCW. I went up with a couple of other old-time seasoned wrestlers up there so they could take a look at me. That's when Ted Turner only had his one station up in Atlanta. Went up there and then did some TV up there as the Mighty Siegfried, which is a name that was brought up by Malenko's friend Karl Gotch that he had given me, an old German strongman. And then so they took a look at me and everything. I went back to Tampa and waited to hear something. Next thing you know, Malenko came to me and said that he had a guy from San Antonio, Texas. They had just purchased Tully Blanchard's dad's old territory, which was Southwest Championship Wrestling, and asked if I would be interested in going out there. I said, yeah, awesome, So my first territory, I was off to Texas, and it was called Texas All-Star Wrestling, and it was owned by a guy named Fred Barron, and I was out there for probably about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and went through about 4 or 5 different bookers. Buck Robley was the first booker. I went through another Chavo Guerrero. I met all the Guerreros when they came in there, which was really cool about that territory there. I met a lot of guys worked from the Mexico office, worked there locally, and the guy Fred Barron used to promote the southern half of Texas for the Von Erichs. And so a lot of their shared talent would come down and work. Bruiser Brody was there, who was very helpful as far as me learning a lot of big man stuff and everything like that. He was awesome, man. He was just incredible. He was a legend in Japan. And when he was back home, he worked for the Dallas office, and he would work down there and do a lot of matches against Mark Lewin. But I had a chance. My first working with One Man Gang was there, and several other great old time wrestlers and guys from up in Dallas. Like I said, would swap in and out. Then from there, I went to Memphis to work for the King, Jerry Lawler, and I was there probably for about a year and a half, 2 years there. I came in as a single, as Big Bubba, because that's where I'd started in Texas. I came in wrestling there as the Terminator, and they'd swap me into a gimmick, which was the Big Bubba gimmick. And what was funny is when I went to Memphis, that's at the same time that in Atlanta with NWA, they had a guy there named Bubba also that eventually down the road became the Big Boss Man when he went to New York. So it was pretty wild, man. I mean, I went there, I worked. they hooked me up with a guy that was 6'10" from in Memphis. From his name was Goliath, and he came in with a little guy named Downtown Bruno, which eventually went to New York. Harvey Whippleman, and that was our manager.
That's some pretty incredible stuff. So you had a couple of runs in that Memphis territory. So to start off your career, you get your name, your first name or moniker from the legendary Carl Gatsu as we're working on the glory days of wrestling's glory days site. Certainly familiar with that name. You get a little bit of tutelage from maybe my single favorite performer of all time in Bruiser Brody, working with the one-man gang and the Purple Haze Mark Lewin. And you get up to Memphis, and now you got another legendary performer that ran Memphis territory, and Jerry the King Lawler. And now you were a tag team champion there, and it looks as though one of those runs was with Jerry the King Lawler. What was it like to still be somewhat of a newcomer to the business and to share those titles with such an iconic figure, especially in Memphis where he's the king of Memphis? I know Andy Kaufman might argue that, but from what we see, Jerry Lawler is the king of Memphis, Tennessee. Also, who are some of the other veterans and even future stars that you have some great memories working with there in that time in Tennessee?
That territory there, I worked with the Rock's dad, Rocky Johnson. We worked a whole big program there. Actually, there's some classic footage on there. I mean, if you want to ever see something fun, really funny and entertaining, you want to see the dance contest that I had with Rocky Johnson. It's on YouTube, and that's when I was elevated. I was elevated from not just Big Bubba, but to Superstar Bubba. Okay. Anyway, that's all I can tell you. You have to pull up the video, and you guys will be wildly entertained. But worked with, I mean, there was several tag teams that came through there. At the same time, in and out of there was the giant hillbilly that had gotten married in New York. He was from Mississippi down there, and he was in and around there, and they used him for several different things. Sid Vicious, that's where he made his debut. Big Sid Udi, and Kamala came in and out of there. Bam Bam Bigelow came in. There was a guy back in that came in with Bam Bam from the Monster Factory. He wrestled for a short time. He wrestled there for a while, and then he wound up getting a shot down in WCW with Van Hammer. He was JT Southern. He was there with us for a while, and just he was a pretty good little wrestler. But I mean, there was a ton of guys. I can't remember everybody that came through there, but it was a heck of a territory. I mean, Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Jarrett was the co-owner of the territory with Jerry, and Jeff Jarrett, that's where he made his debut down there.
Oh, that is fantastic stuff. We're a couple of questions in here, and you've dropped some serious names at us. I mean, for that day and for that age, that's for someone new coming in, that is pretty incredible. I mean, especially, just kind of getting your feet wet. Those are some heavy-duty names to break in with. That's fantastic. Anyway, after Memphis, again, if I'm correct in the time frame, I'm pretty sure now you said you originally started in Florida. I think you went back home, so to speak, to Florida Championship Wrestling, correct?
No, before I went there, I worked for a short period of time in Pensacola. They were trying to open that territory back up.
Okay. I knew it was in Florida somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was Florida Championship or... regardless, while you're down there in Florida, again, I'm sure there are plenty of other names that you'll be able to drop on us, but just in doing some homework and watching some stuff, I've seen that you worked specifically for a while with another star that would go on to make a big name for himself up in New York, Scott Hall. What are your recollections of working with Scott down there in Florida when both of you had kind of yet to achieve that big superstar status? What were your views of him as a performer in the ring and as a person outside of the ring? What was your relationship?
Oh, he was a cool guy, man. I mean, we were there for a while. Matter of fact, he had just come back. I'd wrestled in Pensacola with Ottman, Sika, and several of the Rodney, who became Yokozuna down the line. Then I went to Portland, Oregon for about 8 months with. They tried to open that territory with Billy Jack Haynes. Tried to open up there, and there was a bunch of guys up there. You had Zambui Express was there. You had oh my God, JT had went up there. There was a bunch of other guys that went up there. Scott was one of them. Because after we left up there, that's when I went back to Tampa, and Scott came into Tampa with me, plus Johnny Ace, which is
Laurinaitis, right?
Animal of the Road Warriors. His
sure.
Who later was huge in Japan, and then became the head of production for WWE. For a long, up to I guess last year or the beginning part of this year, I forget what it was. But then their little brother also was there, and he wrestled as the Terminator down there. And then you had Mike Graham there, you had Steve Kern, Dusty Rhodes, and I'd gotten into a big feud with Dusty Rhodes, who later became my brother-in-law, unbeknownst to me. But he was him, and that's my brother-in-law, Sags and the Nasty Boys. The Nasty Boys were down there with us. Bam Bam Bigelow came in. Oh, man. I'm trying to remember now. There was a ton of talent there. I mean, we Wrestle TV worked all over the state of Florida, and plus in the Bahamas. We had a big show there. When I wrestled there, I wrestled as that's where I did the Big Steel Man, and my manager was Diamond Dallas Page.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Very cool.
And he always wanted to wrestle, man. That was his big deal. He wanted to wrestle. But he was a tremendous manager. Between him and Sir Oliver Humperdinck, who was there, the big red rooster.
Yeah, yeah. So you, again, each step along the way before you eventually would make it up to New York and, kind of became a household name for a bit there. Seems like you were working with just unbelievable talent every step you made.
Yeah, learning, man. Always learning. Always learning.
Sure. So anyway, to move along, speaking of that move up north, your big call comes in, 1989, you brought in the World Wrestling Federation, and you just touched on the name, and maybe some people aren't that familiar with this when you first came in. You debut as Big Steel Man with Slick as your manager.
Right.
Now, I was wondering first, how does your coming to the WWF come about? How does that develop? How are you approached with that opportunity? What are your thoughts when you finally do get that big offer? And then what's the story with the Big Steel Man gimmick? Who does that idea come from? How's it decided to put you alongside Slick? And why exactly was that character's lifespan cut so short?
Well, I came in there as I'd been wrestling in Florida as the Big Steel Man. I had friends that were that steel workers, construction workers, and stuff like that. And I decided, I was a big, strong guy, power lifter. I took and decided to use that. Matter of fact, we did vignettes in Florida where I do all kind of strength, different strength feats and stuff like that, pulling cars and all kind of stuff, And then while I was down there, we did a big show. And when we did one of our big shows at the Florida State Fairgrounds, a guy came from Austria over to scout talent, and he came over there to see me, and Dusty come to me along with the other guys in the office and said that he had talked to me in the back and was real interested in having me come over and work with him for in a championship match. And over there, it was really cool because when I did go over there, they'd wrestle a single building. They worked Germany and Austria and they would work 4 to 6 weeks in one building, working every single night. They had talent from UK in there. They had people from Italy, from Germany, and Austria that worked there, and they would work the same building, matches, night after night after night, and they would wrestle in rounds. And over there, wrestling is called catch. And, I mean, it was awesome, man. I mean, I worked over there, worked with him, and then when I finished my 10 days there, I came back over to the States, to Tampa, and they had a meeting with me telling me that WCW and WWF had both called, and they were interested in me. Gordon Soley, Steve Kern, Dusty, I mean, you know, Mike Graham, all of them. You know, that's one of the coolest offices I ever worked in, because it was like working for family, kind of. You know what I'm saying? They were, you know, with all the guys. It wasn't just me, but all the guys. And, you know, they talked the information, told me what to expect and this and that, but found that they were just passing the information and letting me know what's going on. And they said that the final thing was up to me and, you know, make a decision on that. And I'm like, you know, and no disrespect to WCW ever, you know, because it was a great company, but, you know, that was my whole deal when I first came into business. I mean, you know, hopefully to be good enough one day to be able to go to the, you know, the WWF. I mean, it had that aura about it. And, you know, when Vince had started that company, he took the best of the best from all over the, you know, the world, pretty basically. But, you know, everybody he had there was a champion in their own right from different, you know, parts of the country and, you know, every territory that's been in the country and every part of the world. I mean, you know, he used the best of the best. You know, he took his dad's super territory and developed it, took it to the next level, especially at the time when cable TV came into event. Because, I mean, when I worked in Texas, the guy that did that territory had USA before WWF had it. And somehow he lost it, and then the next thing you know, that Vince got on there, you know, on USA Network. You know, so, you know, when they came to me with that, I said, you know, that's where I wanted to go. So I got an invite up there, and I did about 4, 5, 6 different dark matches at different TVs. And they brought me up so they could really see what I could do and see me in person and eyeball me and I guess, you know, think about what they could use me and how they could use me and this and everything. And when they gave me really the good thumbs up when I came up there, they took and put me with Slick. And I was on the road for about 6 or 8 months with my Steel Man gimmick until they could come up, you know, because it's all about merchandising. It's all about kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? So they talked to me and, you know, put me out there. That way people could see you, you know, get used to you, and they also get feedback that way also, you know what I'm saying? And give me the opportunity to work. You know, I was working first, second, or third match on the cards, and, you know, first of all, it was awesome, you know, just be in that group of guys. I came in there, being in the dressing room, man, I was in awe every night, you know. I walked through the curtains. My first time walking through the curtains, my first dark match was up by Niagara Falls, and we went up there to the Civic Center, and I'm coming through, and my luggage got hooked on the drape, about yanked down half of the curtain separating the guys from the entranceway into the building, you know, so started my clumsiness off right. I've been that way all my life.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So that initial call that when you went up there, now with that Vince that actually, you know, you went and met with him when you went in, and he laid it out on the table for you, or who was it that actually, you know, approached you or contacted you about it? I know you said you had a call while you were gone, and when you got back, but who was it you actually spoke with coming in there to WWF?
No, I just got a call from the office, and then they sent me. They said they want to come take. It was somebody. I don't know if it was Pat Patterson or who it was that called. So far, you know, I mean, you're talking 25, 26 years ago.
Sure. I know. I have trouble remembering where I'm going half the time.
Taking over my.
So.
I only got 1 or 2 brain cells left in my head, So when I shake my head, it's hearing a maraca, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, remembering, you know, I get guys, kids on Facebook and stuff that, you know, talk to me all the time and stuff, and different fans and stuff that, you know, I talk to them, and I'm, you know, and they go, do you remember such and such match in London, Ontario on such and such date on this day, you know what I'm saying? And I was, you know, realized that I was wrestling 300 days a year, and you know, or more, and sometimes double shots, and to remember every single place at a particular time, I mean, it's just, it would be, for a normal person, not to mention one that's, you know, I special, you know, but, you know, just pretty crazy.
Yeah, sure.
But, you know, they called me and contacted me, sent me the tickets, said, you know, come up to, do, you know, they want to take a look at me, and so I did 3 days of TV up, my first genre out, the first night was in, like I said, Niagara Falls, and then, when I probably had, you know, I don't know, 3, 4, at least more, dark matches that you know, TVs are like 3 hours long, and when you're doing them, you know, they have the first hour is dark, the second hour is live, and the third hour was dark again, you know what I'm saying? Always kept the main event for the end, that way you could keep the fans in, because TVs are so long and hard on the audience, you know what I'm saying? And it was just crazy, you know, and here I was in the midst of all this talent that, you know, they were all, it was like being in a general's convention as far as wrestlers go, you know, the best of the best of the best. You know, I mean, from the people on the bottom all the way to the top were guys that were, you know, main eventers at some point in their time in their careers, you know. So, I mean, guys I'd watched when I was younger, I mean, you know, here you are, you're going to be in the ring with them or being even in the same dressing room with them, you know. I remember what Malenko always respected. I shook hands with everybody coming into the venue and, you know, polite and introduced myself and going around the different areas and, you know, and always be polite, quiet, and, you know, just listen. And that's the way I was brought into this business, and, you know, that's the way I've always told guys that I'm meeting coming into this business, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely, totally. So you move on from the big steel man, and we see the birth of Tugboat. First it was Tugboat Tyler, just for a short period of time, and then, of course, Tugboat Thomas. Either way, it's the Tugboat character. You begin wearing the striped shirt and the sailor's hat and giving the old toot-toot to the delight of the fans. Much like the Scum just asked you about the big steel man gimmick and where that came from, we got to know who comes up to you and drops the idea of Tugboat on you, and what exactly are you thinking when you're told that you're now doing a more of a sailor gimmick? Did you ever foresee the popularity of that character would become pretty big? And before you get started on your answer, and this is from the Scum, he wants to hear another one of your toot-toots for old time's sake.
Well, nice. I mean, as far as the character, I mean, the committee that was booking, you know, that books all the time and everything and develops the character was sitting down, and they're the ones that put us together. You know what I'm saying? They approached me, you know, and they asked me point blank, you know, this is a character that we thought about having you do, and we want to take and, ask you, you know, if you're comfortable with it or whatever, because you got to remember, whatever they give you, you know, that time on TV, like I tell a lot of young guys that are wrestling, you know, that time to be on TV, every minute is very, very expensive, man. You know, and they give you the gimmick, but you have to get the gimmick over. So, I mean, when they came up with this gimmick, you know, I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, first of all, I'll tell you guys that, you know, I'm a big kid, and I act like, you know, I'm immature, and, you know, I mean, I'm just trying to, you know, tell you guys ahead of time how I am as an individual. And when I still watch cartoons. I love cartoons. I do a lot of stuff with my grandkids and my kids. You know, I mean, I'm, you know, a little bit immature, but you know what? It makes me a better person. I am what I am, you know. And when they told me, about this Tugboat character, I'm like, hey, this is awesome. I get to be a cross between Popeye, and Brutus in one character. I look like Brutus and I act like Popeye. Hey, it's the best. You know what I'm saying? I loved it. The people loved it. Here I was, this herky-jerky, big lug, that pretty basically all I had to be was myself, because that's how I am in real life. Like I said, clumsy, bumbling, stumbling, and then they put me with Hulk Hogan, who was the king, man. He was, whoever he touched, he was so over, and, and such a gigantic personality, in and out of the ring, to be associated with him, and for him to, touch you, that golden touch, it's like the Midas touch there. And, it automatically got over, and I became, when Quake hurt him, and I became the biggest cheerleader in the world, until he was better, I sold a gazillion little wristbands saying that Hulk rules. You know what I'm saying? Over, eat your Hulk Hogan vitamins. You know what I'm saying, brother?
Absolutely. That's great. And that kind of brings me to my next question. You teamed up with the Hulkster and had a little feud going with Dino Bravo and the Earthquake. That leads you up to you and the Hulkster as co-captains of the team in the main event at Survivor Series versus those two. Obviously, this had to be an enormous thrill to be working, like you mentioned, with Hogan and the enormous popularity he had and anybody that got near him. Take us back, if you would, and I understand that you said so many different matches. This one must stick out to you somewhat. Take us back to your time working with him and how you initially decided to be put in that spot, and if you're given for a reason for that, what was it? And then recollect for us your time both in and out of the ring with most arguably the most recognizable figure in the history of the business.
Oh man, it was incredible. I mean, here I am. They put me together with him, and I'm this big green guy because I'm still green as goat crap. I mean, as far as my experience in the ring, every day I'm in the ring, I beat myself up, and I had several guys at the time. Never let them see you act like that, because I was hard on myself. I wanted to give 150, 200% in the ring and do the best that I could do, and they put me with, and I was working with all these great guys and stuff, and he was, unbelievable. He was such a gentleman. He was such a nice guy. It was incredible. In, out of the ring, I remember going with him one time. We did a charity deal in California where it was at a charity auction, and we wound up in an eating contest. Me, him against Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold. That's when they were married at a Planet Hollywood, and eating dessert, strudel and all this. Oh my God! I'm having them shove apple strudel with whipped cream all in my face, and just having a fun time and going good with it and everything. It was and he was awesome. He was awesome. We talked, sitting down with him. He was down to earth. He had a big heart. I feel real bad about a lot of the stuff that he's gone through in the last few years and stuff like that. But you know what I'm saying? And I hear a lot of different things from a lot of different people. But he was my memories and how he's always been as a professional and a great guy and a super wrestler. The people loved him. They love him even when he's bad. When he comes back from being bad, they love him 10 times as much. You know what I'm saying? Just thinking of the longevity, that this man has had in this business. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot to be said for that. And the popularity and the things that he's been involved with and everything. And I enjoyed it. And like I said, being up at the top, I was like, I couldn't lace this guy's boots, or the other guys who I'm working with, and having the opportunity, to be there. It was one of the highlights of my, career probably. You know, I mean, I worked with a lot of good guys, but I mean, just having that opportunity and that memory, and it was just truly a tremendous experience. The only thing that could be better was my experience with Quake, because he turned out not to be only my tag team partner, but one of my best friends. You know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, we were certainly going to touch on that here in a little bit. Before I move on to the next question, you kind of dropped something we were going to get at. Couple things first. I couldn't agree more with you on your staying a kid. I mean, hey, I go by the moniker The Scum, so I'm out here having a good time too, my friend. So if now the other thing I was going to say is Steve and I had discussed, we listened to some of your interviews. Obviously, we're both fans. You started going down that path with the Hogan. So before we move on the Hulkster, can we get a full-on impression of the Hulkster? We're big fans of your impersonations of some of the other guys that we've seen.
Oh yeah. Wrong guy.
That one works too. Yeah, we'll take that one.
Let me tell you, brother. It's like this. It's Hulkamania running wild out here on the beach. You know what I'm saying, brother? These 22-inch pythons, they're incredible. My tan is impeccable. It's, brother, as long as you eat those vitamins, say those prayers before you go to bed again. All you little Hulkamaniacs out there, I just want you to know, brother, it's Hulkamania somewhere in the world every time of the day.
Very good. Very good. Now that we've opened that can of worms, we might ask for a few of those along the way, if you don't mind.
Yeah, at any point you can do as many as you like at any time. It's not a problem.
Sure.
Excellent, Bubba. I love it. You know what I'm saying, Bubba? Oh, zoom the abs. Oh, yeah. Yes, macho man. Can you dig it?
Very good.
Fantastic stuff.
Well, I'll tell you what, after the next question, you might have another one, because I think I've heard you pull one, at least of someone who at least was associated with the guy who I'm going to get to in the next question. So moving along, you found yourself kind of after the run that you had alongside the Hulk. You were working right when you first came into the company. You were one of the first opponents that worked a program with The Undertaker. What were your thoughts first on the whole Undertaker gimmick when it was brought in? As it was certainly unique. Did you think it had think it would have staying power? And also, what were your thoughts on working with The Undertaker, the future legend that he was, and when you were facing him early in his WWF days? And did you possibly have any idea that he would not only soar to the heights that he has, but still be at it all these years later?
Oh, man. First of all, I love the gimmick. I wish I could do a gimmick like that. I love gimmicks, first of all. I believe that wrestling nowadays is missing a lot of individual gimmicks. Too many people are the same. Same kind of looks, same kind of gimmicks going on. There was a little more variety in the past. But the Taker, he was awesome, man. I had his first match, him and Paul Bearer. And Paul was a great guy, a good guy. He was one of my, and the big man, he's awesome. I knew that he would be great. First time that he was laid out there and sat up and the people popped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he was tremendous. Go to the corner, grab your arm, go to the corner, walk the top rope. Here you got a guy, it's about 6'9", whatever, you know what I'm saying? And to be able to do that kind of stuff that he was doing, tremendous, man. Very methodical, the way he worked, how he worked in the ring, and the matches he had, just tremendous. And in the early times there, popping up from underneath the ring when you least expect them. The gimmick was always full of surprises. And the thing is, with that Undertaker gimmick, you know what I'm saying, you could do so much with it. It's untapped entertainment source. And everybody loves the dead man. You know what I'm saying? It's that kind of gimmick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember watching when he came in and not really knowing much about him, and immediately, you know, you were like, wow, who's this guy? You know, I mean, and like you said, full of surprises. You never know what was coming. Seemed like you couldn't hurt the guy at first, you know?
Oh, it's awesome. And then when they brought in Kane with him as his brother, you know, here's another cool deal, you know, spinoff. I mean, there was so many things, and there's so much that could be done with that type of gimmick, you know? And, you know, just think of the merchandise that he sold over the years. You know, all the different cool merchandise between, you know, they had, I think at one time, foam urns.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
tombstone.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I remember a foam tombstone at one point.
I mean, just awesome. I mean, you know, and it's a cool, like I said, whether he's a bad guy or, here's a guy, it's a heel face. You know, that's like, I tell a lot of people when, we had a short time when I was with Quake that they turned us, you know, baby face, but, you know, we work the same, so we're heel face, you know, instead of being a baby face or a heel. You know?
Sure. Very good stuff. So before we move on to the next question, do you do an Undertaker?
Oh no, man, no Undertaker, man.
Just wondering. I heard you slip a Paul Bearer in there, quick, but all right. Anyway, moving along. Now I remember it was shortly after that. Tugboat begins showing signs maybe of turning heel a bit. I remember on a Saturday night's main event where you kind of lit into Hulk Hogan in a battle royal, and then the turn, I guess, was completed when you were teaming with the Bushwhackers. Actually, we had Luke of the Bushwhackers on about a week and a half ago. What a fantastic guy he was! Very entertaining. He was a real.
I trained in his gym over here in Clearwater.
Oh yeah, that's
gym right here, man. It's awesome.
He was great. I mean, we had a good time with him. But anyway, you know, on camera, you know, you turn on the Bushwhackers, kind of help the Nasty Boys and the Earthquake get the win there. So then Jimmy Hart becomes your manager, reintroduces you as Typhoon, one half of the Natural Disasters. Classic big man team, you know, great, one of the best teams of that era. Was it felt at this point this Tugboat has gone as far as it could with that gimmick, or was there another reasoning for the rebirth as Typhoon? And give us your memories you were just touching on of working with Jimmy Hart, and especially the memories of your late partner and your good friend John Tenta, the Earthquake.
Well, let me tell you, baby, you know that Tugboat, he's a bad man, baby. You know what I'm saying? He's my brother-in-law, so I have to tell you like this, you know what I'm saying? He turned to give the shorthand to the big man in the ring before he turned on him.
That must be one hell of a Thanksgiving table, you two.
Oh my God. Yeah, when I did the short change, they introduced me as as Typhoon. They put me together with Quake. We were with Jimmy Hart, and here's Jimmy Hart, man. He is a bowl of energy. I think he lives on nothing but macaroni, cheese, and peppermint candies, man. That's constantly going. I mean, here's a guy that was creating music for most of the guys at the time. I mean, it was just crazy. And they were, as far as me and Quake, man, I mean, he was a great match. It was usually me, him, me, Quake, Jimmy, and who else? One of the Hebners, the twin wrestling brothers. I mean, referee brothers that would do a lot of trips together if we were booked in the same towns. And, I mean, it was awesome, man. I mean, Quake, we worked so good together because we worked like true tag team partners, man. We worked. It's not one guy doing, you know, all of his stuff, another guy doing all of their stuff. We were working together, all right, and doing a combination of things, which I think a lot of people didn't see in big man teams, you know, or the guys that came down the pike, you know what I'm saying? We did a collaboration. I mean, you know, pretty basically like, you know, the Road Warriors were doing. But here we were, a little bit different kind of guys. You know, we were, you know, weighing about a half a ton of pure fun, baby. You know, me and her. You know, and Quake was an awesome guy. I mean, we didn't spend time only in the ring together. I mean, when we were at home, when he finally came down and moved down to Florida, he was living over in Orlando. I was living in Tampa. And, you know, we did a lot of stuff outside. I mean, we we're very similar in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? And I miss him a lot. I think about him a lot. I mean, he was a great tag team partner and a good friend. I could talk to him if he had a problem. I mean, I had a problem. You know, we were close and could talk. I mean, we had each other to talk to. I mean, there was nobody else that felt that way or that comfortable being around. And you know, whether it be with the business problems or even our own personal lives or stuff that was going on and stuff, you know, that knew it wasn't going to go outside that room. You know, I mean, you know, he'd go to the gym with me on the road, and you know, if we were traveling, I mean, we've been to over 40 different countries. I mean, when we were overseas, I mean, we'd go out sightseeing, we'd go to catch a movie, we go, you know, different places, stuff that wouldn't get us into trouble, because being on the road 300 days or more a year, with just, you know, spending more time than you are with your guys you're working with than you are at home with your family, has a tendency to get you into trouble sometimes. You get into very awkward situations. You get into very, it's no different than any other entertainer in the entertainment industry. You know, you get into situations or put your, you know, get, you know, in, sometimes people go places where they shouldn't really realistically go to, because, you know, the writing's on the wall that somebody, because of the nature of the business, you know, everybody recognizes you, and then the next thing you know, there's a problem, or, you know, a variety of things can happen. So, I mean, you know, we entertain. I mean, we've traveled, we've seen things, we did things together, go to the zoo, I mean, you name it, you know, like a couple of kids on a summer vacation. We were out and about, and meanwhile, we're all, you know, all year round. So it was a very cool to have a friend, not only as a working partner, but, you know, a true friend, you know, and I miss that, you know. He had a great family. I mean, we'd go to Disney World, nothing like seeing two 400-pound guys up on top of Dumbo, riding the Dumbo ride, you know, or in a magic teacup. You know what I'm saying? Oh, baby. Woohoo! You know?
Yeah.
You know, it was cool. It was very, very cool. Busch Gardens, you know, we did the gambit, man.
Sure.
Yeah, in retrospect, it seems to have probably been a better move than going and having to clear out a bar just to get a little bit of peace and quiet. So, good choices there. Now you were saying how great it was working, you know, with Earthquake and having that good chemistry as the Natural Disasters, one of the great tag teams from that era. And, man, what a bunch of names you guys got to work with. You battled the Road Warriors, the Steiners, the DiBiase and IRS, the Bushwhackers, the Nasty Boys. Tell us what it was like working in a time when tag team wrestling was really over the top for the fans. Run through your memories, if you could, of some of these teams and what it was like to square off against them. And did you have a particular set of opponents you really liked to work with? And tell us a little bit about working in the tag team division at that time.
Oh, man, tag team, it was awesome, man. There was, you know what I'm saying, you're naming just only a slight, the cream off the top of the milk, man. I mean, there were so many tag teams, you know what I'm saying, that were out there and that were phenomenal. I mean, you know, I always thought it was funny, the Bushwhackers, because I loved working with them. But here you had, for years, the bloodiest, most ruthless tag team as the Sheepherders in history, and Vince turned them into Bushwhackers. You know what I'm saying? But they made it work. You know what I'm saying? And the people loved them. And you know, and what was cool is they were working with them was a complete different style. You know what I'm saying? All the, you know, the different types of moves and stuff that they did, and, you know, the ha-ha funny stuff and everything. You know, and then you worked with, like, IRS and DiBiase. I mean, you know, first of all, you know, IRS, tremendous amateur wrestler at Syracuse. You know what I'm saying? Pro wrestler. You know what I'm saying? The whole family there, he's married to Barry Windham's sister. Blackjack Mulligan is his father-in-law, okay? His two boys that are working now are tremendous. Great talents. Both sons played football in a small town called Brooksville up north of Tampa, and they were tremendous and just really great. They went through the training school down here in Tampa, because that's now NXS, which is over in Orlando. They have a tremendous facility over there. But I loved it, man. I mean, the Road Warriors. I mean, when the WWF first went over to Japan as a company, the first time, I was lucky enough, me and Quake went over there and we worked with the Road Warriors in the Tokyo Dome, sold out venue. Tenryu was there on the card from Japan. I mean, every match was a main event match all the way down the card. I mean, it was tremendous. I'd never been to the Orient before, and I was first time over there, and I was like, wow. And that's where Quake broke in. He wrestled amateur, first of all, at LSU here in the States. He was an alternate on the Canadian team. He was supposed to have been the starter on the Canadian wrestling team in Canada for them. He broke in. He went to sumo school in Japan. He stayed there a year undefeated as a sumo, and decided he didn't like it. Then he hooked up with Shoei Baba, okay, and broke in as a pro wrestler in Japan. And before he came to the WWF, that's where he was working over there. And he, I mean, directly under Baba. I mean, under his wing. Him and Mrs. Baba, his wife. You know, but they took control of him, told him what to do, what not to do. I mean, his whole lifestyle. Just like, you know, very, very proud. You know what I'm saying? So when I went back over there, here I was. The Road Warriors, that's where they made their big debut, was when they went to Japan. They were over there, huge, as a tag team. And, you know, that's where Quake made his debut, and so he was very well known there, too. So here I was, the jabroni on the card going into this Tokyo Dome. So I'm saying, oh, whatever, man. I know who's taking the fall here, but I'm going to get my crap in, you know. So that was pretty basically how that went. And, you know, got over, and I got a great response there. So, you know, it was one of the greatest. I mean, like I said, like you say, too, it was when tag teams were in their heyday, man. I mean, it was just tremendous. I mean, there was tag teams. I think everybody that worked a single was a member of a tag team at some point in time. And, you know, you had Power and Glory, which was, you know, Hercules Hernandez, you know, and Tony Roma. I mean, Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Brett's brother, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there was just the Beverly brothers, okay, who were world champions for a short time. They took the belts from the Road Warriors. I mean, so there was just, I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on as far as tag team talent that was out there and up there. The Rougeaus, who were really good workers. I mean, you know, I mean, just incredible. That's all I can say, you know.
Yeah, it was a great time for tag team wrestling, that's for sure.
And I loved it, man. We were in our heyday. I mean, one of the highlights, I guess, was working. I say all the time is in '92 when we went to Wembley Stadium and worked the Beverly Brothers there, and Michael Jackson had been there like a week or two prior to us coming there for SummerSlam, and Michael Jackson had broken the stadium record there for attendance, and we came in behind him and broke his record. I mean, and the fans in England, they were just unbelievable. It was just a constant roar, you know. And also, we got to work in front of the royal family at the Royal Albert Hall, so that was kind of a highlight there while we were over there in that time frame.
Very cool. Real quick, before Steve finishes up with one more question, given that Michael Jackson, the Thriller, was over there in your earlier dance-off with Rocky Johnson, any chance that there was a Typhoon versus the Thriller dance-off over there at Wembley? Or?
I tell you, man, all I was missing was that rhinestone glove. That's all I can tell you.
That's right. That's right.
That's right, baby. I'll make up for being a great dancer by stepping on your feet and flattening your back.
That's right. That's right. That's a good philosophy, man. I should look into that.
Well, so we'll move along here, and you mentioned rhinestones. So we're at the point in our interview where chronologically we move on to WCW and debut in grand fashion as the Shockmaster. We wouldn't go there, but it's no secret that over the years that you found the humor in this, and I've seen pictures of you with that helmet and everything. So it seems a pretty safe question to ask here. But but first, before we get to that, what was your decision to leave the World Wrestling Federation at that point, make the jump to WCW? Who plants a seed in making that move happen? And then, bring us through that whole story and tell the listeners, if they hadn't heard before, the debut of the Shockmaster and the backstory to that, and starting from where the idea for the character comes from and your thought there. And if you would, bring us step by step through the events of that and what happened through that fabled debut.
You know what? I mean, there goes that memory, those brain cells again, man. I'm telling you. They're rolling onto the floor over here. I can't tell you the exact... other than as far as the debut and that, the debut was at Bash at the Beach, and it was a live. It wasn't taped. It was a live pay-per-view that was done in Daytona Beach. But my going to the WCW, I forget. At that point in time, I've been in and out of the business. I had to leave at one particular time because I had opened up a couple of nightclubs in Key West with my brother-in-law. Before I went to do that, when I went to do that, I took in my brother-in-law had gotten shot and killed right before we were going to open up.
Oh.
He was going to be down there working the thing the whole time. And at one point I left for that reason, because I had to come off the road because I had a ton of money, everything I had almost, invested down there. I'm paying, houses up here in Tampa. I got a place down there, and then I have to go down there. We have family down there in Key West, but I don't do business with family. It's just a good rule of thumb that I've learned over the years. You have to kind of put them on the. It's no disrespect to the family. You just have to kind of, business is business, family is family. But I had to, come off the road, go to work, and get things rolling down there, and so I left there. So it's in that area there, in and out. I went to work for WCW, and I sat in with Dusty and Ole, and we were talking about a couple different things, and I had a little input, and I said, well, they were thinking about that's around just after they did the Glacier deal, and down there, I says, well, because I was into comic books, and here I am, this big kid, and they were talking about doing this gimmick, and I'm like, what about a superhero kind of, not really superhero, but a gimmick like that, with a hood, hood. And really, the Shockmaster mask wasn't going to be the hood. That was something they gave me at the last moment to wear. Something, with glitter coming through my eyeball so I couldn't see, through little holes that were drilled in that wound up. They had to take the secretary's pantyhose off, and they cut them and glued them over the holes. So now I had dark-tinted pantyhose over the little teeny holes. The glitter was coming through my eyeballs to walk out onto stage during a Flair for the Gold interview segment. And I'm like, oh, my God, So I'm like, the gimmick was supposed to be I had a one-piece type suit with a Mexican-type mask where the hair was exposed in the top of the, a lightning bolt through the face, and it was the Shockmaster was the gimmick, okay, and that, here's this big, an enforcer type gimmick, but with a cartoonish comic book kind of look to him, pretty basically was the deal. And so the initial interview was at Bash at the Beach, and so they had me, it was getting ready for, I think, it wasn't War Games, it was, the next pay-per-view was in New Orleans, Louisiana. It was a cage match, okay, with 8 guys in there. Vader, the the Bulldog, Sting. I forgot who all was in the match. But they had all of us going to be in a cage. And it was an elimination type match. And they had me come. They're going to give me the cue. I'm behind the wall. I got this cape on that really belonged. There was two guys that were. I forgot what they were called then, man. It's almost like a big furry cape. They put that on me. I had a pair of cowboy boots and jeans on, no shirt, and they had that hood on me, the Shockmaster hood. So I'm waking behind the wall, and that set was actually built on 2x4s, 12 and 14-inch on center, and since the wall was about 10 foot, and they were using 8-foot boards, they took and built a board at the they took and did a vertical one on the bottom, about a little over 2 feet above, which brings it right below my kneecap. Okay, which added another 2 feet to the bottom of the wall, and it was 5/8 sheetrock, and they built that set. Okay, like the inside of a house, Flair for the Gold. And Mike Graham was the person that was going to give me the cue. And he's right there, and he goes, Fred, you're going to have to hit this hard because, you know, it's built like a wall in your house. You know? I'm like, okay. And so when he goes, they were doing the whole deal out there. Sid Vicious was out there. I forgot all the guys, but it was all leading up to this deal, and I was supposed to blow through the wall as the mystery member of Sting and Their's team. And what happens? He gives me the cue. I double axe handle the wall and blew it out, blew the boards apart. But I hit it so hard, what I should have done was kick the bottom of the wall out first and then blow the top of the wall out. But it wound up being like me, a giant teeter-totter, going through the hole I busted in the wall because of the momentum that I used, and poof, onto the stage where the helmet popped off like a champagne cork, and I turned my face because it's live TV trying to protect the gimmick, and reaching for the helmet, put it back on my head, jump up, and, do the promo segment, so, and the rest is history. Okay, and they just celebrated 20 years in the archives of wrestling history.
Yeah, that's fantastic stuff. There's always been, the stories, especially, with the big, the notorious stories from the world of professional wrestling, this being one of them. There's rumor that earlier in the day that there was a stud added to the bottom part of the floor, things along those lines. I don't know if you could, verify that or not, but I honestly think that it was, where I heard that was Dusty Rhodes did a round table, one of the WWE roundtables, and mentioned the story in detail. And I think he was the one that said that there may have been a reinforced stud put in at the bottom or something that you didn't know about, and exactly what happened. You go through with the top end and the bottom end, there was something there to trip you up. But from what it's worth, like you said, you saved your identity. No one knew who you were except for Cody. Apparently.
Well, you know what? All you can do is let's go on, man. That's pretty basically the deal. But like I said, that board that was added was right at the height of my knee. Went all the way across the about knee high, just below my knee, right where it bends. And that was the piece that screwed everything up. Other than me, I'm a big screw up, So I must take the hit. But you know what? I mean, I was very upset when it happened, but I did the best and made over because it was live. And, the rest is history. But if you look at it, and I look at it a lot, and I laugh at it now, it's funny, it's goofy. But you know what? I tell people all the time, as bad as it was, the most entertaining part of the movies now are the outtakes at the end of the movie where the famous actors screw up. So you could kind of put it in that same realm, I guess. It's all about what you want to make of it, So you just go through and you do what you want. Sometimes too many people worry, or ponder on things that happen like that. It's history. It happened. You know, and, you know, I have my own award, the Shockmaster Award in the WWE for the, you know. So,
well,
some lucky people out there. Woo-hoo.
You got everybody to laugh, and if anything, you know, when a moment gets heavy, you know, if you can get some levity underneath it and get through it. And I'll be honest with you, and of some of the, you know, like you were saying, some of the blooper reels or some of the craziest things that have happened in the world of pro wrestling, I find that one to be, you know, not as bad as, you know, anyone that was on the mic, you know, let's say asking to maybe take a retake and then being reminded that they're on live television. We'll leave whoever that was nameless, but I think that was a bigger gaffe than anything that you did there as the Shockmaster personally.
You know, I tell guys all the time, back in the day when I was working with WWF, you know, it was not uncommon at a TV, they do a match and it didn't go the way it should have went for TV purposes or whatever. Or, you know, they weren't happy with it, and in the third hour, you know, because people are going to leave, and who's going to say what other than the smart marks that are out there that are, you know, giving the reports for the cheat sheets back at, you know, the Wrestling Observer or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So here it come back on again in a third hour segment. You know what I'm saying? So it was not uncommon practice back in the day at a TV taping for a match to be redone. You know? Kind of takes the head off of it, but I've seen it, you know, and I mean, but it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? It's there, maybe not the most shining star of my career, but you know what? I'm grateful for every opportunity and everything that's happened with me down the line, and that truly, I mean, if you look at the amount of people who have watched it, the awards, my Shockmaster doll is kind of like a very popular doll in the Legends series from Jakks Pacific. So, you know, it's a win-win in all situations, you know. And there's a lot of people. I take the mask. I have the original mask, plus a couple other ones that, you know, from that. And I take it when I do autograph deals and stuff like that and everything. And a lot of people have gotten their pictures taken with that thing. I figure I'd come up with a new gimmick with it. I can maybe put the sailor hat on it and call it like the Shockboat. Or the Tugmaster, you know what I'm saying?
Sure. Hey, you know, maybe one day...
pop by with a cape.
Sure, maybe one day make a comeback if I can get my chops up. Maybe we can be the Scum Masters.
There you go. I like it.
I guess that's better than Scumboat.
Yeah,
definitely. Hey, you never know, though. Good heel name.
That's right, definitely. So the one thing that's great, you know, it's great that you have such a fantastic sense of humor and you can look at it that way. I mean, it certainly doesn't diminish all the great stuff you did. The work alongside Hulk is the Tugboat and your tag team title runs with Earthquake and just your whole career was fantastic. And we really appreciate you being here. You're a lot of fun talking with you. But before we let you go here, you know, you went through some different impressions. Why don't you give us your favorite one? What's your favorite impression? Maybe one that you haven't done here that we can hear before we sign off with you.
Oh man, that's a hard one, man. That's a hard, you know.
Well, feel free to throw a few in if you'd like.
Do you do Kamala?
Oh no Kamala. Oh, wait. How about yes? Hi, I'm Gold Dust.
Oh man!
I
can only imagine holidays around your place with Fred and the Runnels family. Holy Toledo!
Keeping it in the family there. Keeping it all in the family.
I do as my ex-wife, but my boobs aren't big enough.
Fred, do you watch the current product at all? Have you seen the recent storyline with Cody?
The new angle with Vince's son-in-law being the owner of the company, and all the stuff they got going on there. He fired Cody. I'm really interested to see where it's going to go. You know, in what direction it's going to head now with what they got going on right now. I watch TNA. There's a lot of times I go out and I watch. I'll go to an independent show here or there locally down here. I like it when we do. I just did about 2 months ago. I was up in Connecticut, Rhode Island for a big autograph thing up there, and plus we were there the whole weekend. Me and Axe and Smash, and who else was with us? I forget now. Batu was there, and Big Sam. But we did a bunch of independents there, and they drew really, really well. We were at a baseball stadium, a football stadium up in Rhode Island, where they drew around 400, 500 people, and it was a hell of a show. Met a lot of nice young guys there. I really enjoy it. I mean, I like a lot of the new talent that's coming up and everything. I'd like to see more with WWE. I'd like to see more. They're trying to do tags, but some new gimmicks coming, with more diversified characters and stuff like that. What do you guys think about the new reality series with the girls?
I watched the first episode, and I just all this reality television, and I should be excited because now there's a reality TV show with like WWE superstars, but I just didn't get into it.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit of it, and I have no interest. I mean, it's just me though. I mean, God bless them, and I hope they do really, really well with it. But I don't know. I mean, there's so many special ed series out there to begin with. You know what I'm saying? But I would rather see a series that was more like the ones when they did the ones with MTV, where
Yes, like a real world style with just a bunch of characters under one roof.
Better, you know what I'm saying? Or like they do with the MMA fighters, you know what I'm saying? Where they are the UFC, where they've got the school and going through the training.
Oh, yeah.
I really like that show. I mean, and then you could do the in-house. You know what I'm saying? They all got to live together. The shoot misery and attitudes. When you get that much testosterone in one area, in one building, and add some women in with it, you know what I'm saying? There's likely to be, you know what I'm saying, a little twist into it.
You're referring to you're referring to the Ultimate Fighter, the reality show where they have two different teams, and then at the end, the two team captains actually fight on a pay-per-view, which would be it's a great concept, and I think that Vince McMahon may not approve that because he didn't think of it, which is a shame because that's a fantastic idea.
I believe they got the girls starting Wednesday this week. The two good-looking girls there.
Oh yeah, that's right. They have the new season coming up. It's girl. I think it's mixed.
Yeah,
I saw a quick ad for it, but yeah, it looks like the girls are going to be captains now. A year or so back, I believe the WWE, in an attempt to start their network, filmed a program pilot or a series of shows called WWE. Scum, help me here. WWE Superstar House or something along those lines. But if I remember correctly,
I think I remember that. To be honest with you, I never got a chance to watch it.
Yeah, I thought they were talking about that when they were going to do the new network, which still hasn't debuted. But yeah, there were quite some personalities. I think you were right, Steve. I think it was Mean Gene, and I want to say Sergeant Slaughter was involved.
Yeah,
maybe Jim Duggan.
No, I know that what it was they were, because I remember my son's been with the developmental over here for about 2 or 3 years. He wanted to referee, and now he's getting into, hopefully getting into where he's been learning production and helping with production. And he was the one originally, hey, Dad, he told me about the thing. That's what it was. And they were looking, who do you think should be in there? I said, well, Iron Sheik should definitely be in there because it was like old-timers, a house of the...
Yeah.
Legends House. WWE Legends House.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah.
Nothing like getting miserable old bastards in a house, especially, who do you think, I was giving some, ideas about whatever, but, putting them into a house situation like that, I just thought it would be humorous. But,
sure.
They could be themselves. But it'd be pretty crazy. But I mean, I could really see it, you know, with some of these new up and coming guys, and maybe even doing it with the Nexus, you know, guys that are, because they got all kind of new up and coming talent. Man, what a great thing to do. I mean, you got school running, run the tape, you know, and well, you got that, you know. But if they had some kind of dormitory type facility with it, because they train girls and they train guys, and I know there's been in the past as many as 80 people going through the school at one time.
That's a crazy amount of people. Then now they just opened, and I don't know if you've been up to Orlando to check it out. That new WWE developmental facility has like 7 or 8 rings, and it's all hardwired with cameras and everything straight to the corporate office up in Connecticut. It's something to behold, from what I've been told.
Yeah, that's where my son's been going over there, and they've been doing their TV for Nexus at Full Sail. I guess it goes to Hulu. I think Hulu's the one that has them.
Yeah. Hulu gives you the episodes, and it's on the more of the edited end, kind of condensed for internet television, more than it is like the full programming. They do that with Raw as well, as they take just some of the highlights and kind of make an abbreviated show down from the 3-hour, the big 3-hour program.
Well, that what's the guy that's in WWE now? Well, Kurt's son is up there now. He came from that school. God, that was tagging with Cody.
Damian Sandow.
Oh yeah, he was there. Because I talked to him a couple times. I said, "Man, I love this gimmick. I think it's very, very good. And I mean, he has a good presence. He's very well spoken. I mean,
yeah. He is very good. I like that a lot, definitely.
You know, it's a good heel gimmick. I mean, you know, and I like the way he comes across, you know, and he's a pretty good little worker.
Sure. Definitely.
I find him, greatly entertaining. There's a couple of guys that stand out, and you mentioned the family, the Wyndham family there. Bray Wyatt right now is doing really well. I'm a big fan of that whole angle, the Wyatt family. Really, really good stuff there. A couple of really good groups of young guys coming in. The Shield obviously doing a good job. So it's good to see that product. But like you said, now I don't know if you caught wind of this or not, but again, we've been talking tag team wrestling tonight on WGD Weekly. Did you notice that they're going to bring out a new set of, I don't know if they're going to be luchadors. They wear a mask, but the El Matadors. Have you seen anything along those lines?
Seen the deal, because I was joking about it the other day. I said, man, the Conquistador's going to get mad about that gimmick.
So's Tito.
Tito Santana. I think they should put him as the manager. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's just me, you know?
Sure.
I'm like, masked Matadors. I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, hey, you know, like I said, I'm gonna hold you to that. If maybe we can put a charge into that rebirth of the tag division. We'll be in touch here for the Scum Masters.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for that, to do that. What's the guy that does the dancing? What do they call him?
Fandango. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, Dancing with the Stars.
I would pay to see him do his dance, and then you run in and just massacre the guy, like splash the daylight out of him. That would be something I'd pay to see.
Yeah. Then I get up and I go, I can moonwalk on him. Like pull down the back of my trunks and moonwalk.
Oh, boy. Fred Ottman with us tonight on WGD Weekly. It's been a great night. Fred, we really, really appreciate your time. I know it's getting late into the evening here on the East Coast, so we're going to let you run. But anything going on with you recently? You got anything you wanted to plug, Twitter or YouTube or anything?
I mean, there's constant stuff coming up on my Facebook. I have, between fans, and I have a friend of mine up north that does it for me. I have a good archives of all kind of wrestling matches. I've even gotten a couple from Texas, which were previously not out there. You know what I'm saying? From when I wrestled my first territory. So they've been oozing them. People have been oozing them to me a little bit at a time, and I mean, it's just I got real cool pictures on there. There's always something interesting and everything going on there. I mean, people a lot of times we'll hook up, we'll talk, whatever. Like a lot of new guys are coming in, and they always got an ear. I ain't got a problem. If they're legit, I'll usually give them a contact number and where they can call me on the phone. Now, I'm pretty open book, man. How I'm talking to you guys here is how I am. I mean, I'm real grateful about the business. I talk to a lot of different young guys. I enjoy talking to them and you know, sharing whatever this retard can, you know, give them. Pardon me, that's not acceptable socially. And I goof, I have a good time, and you know, and I appreciate, you know, I enjoy the fans. Without the fans, it would have never been me. And I feel lucky to have been able to do and see the things that I've done, and been to places that I've been, and you know, and tasted parts of the world, you know, and kids, old people, you know, dogs, and everything else in between. You know what I'm saying? So it's a cool deal, and what you see is what you get. And you know, anytime, man, and that's what I'm all about. I got several things, stuff going into next year and stuff that I want to do. I don't wrestle anymore. I get a lot of asks to go wrestle, and I don't wrestle anymore. I've had a couple of different health issues. I had some surgeries and stuff like that on my body, but everything's good. I'm healthy. I'm in the gym. I'm training. I'm still a big moose, and I'm just me, and happy to be that. Spending time with my kids, my wife, Sheila, who's awesome, and everything else. If they get a hold of me, she'll get a hold of me. If they contact me, and but go to Fred Ottman on Facebook and peruse it. And like I said, go on to YouTube. There's lots of funnies and haha. If you want to see the dancing bear in action, baby, that's where you go.
Absolutely. Well, Fred, you said you were grateful to the fans, and we're certainly grateful that you spent this time with us here tonight. I'm sure the fans will enjoy it. Sure, absolutely great listen. I know Steve and myself have both enjoyed talking with you. We appreciate you coming on and sharing all the great stories, the great impressions, and yeah, well, I always say you learn something new every week here on WGD Weekly. You know, I wasn't familiar with the dancer that you turned out to prove to be, so you learn something new every week, but we just want to really thank you for being here with us tonight.
Oh, yeah, I want to give a plug. There's some guys that are trying to put together an independent film project. They've been all summer gathering interviews from all the guys, a variety. They've been all over the country gathering interviews. They came up here, me, Lanny Poffo, Luke had stopped by, and it's a project called, I believe, they have a website. It's called Wrestling with Disaster. And supposedly they were going to, in November or December, he was going to go to the cutting room, and it's about events in the business, outside the business, relationships, all kind of different questions and answers, and definitely, I hope everything goes good with the project. And it's supposed to go, I think it'll go either be shown on Hulu or something like that. And then they're going to go around different film festivals and pitch it to the major people there. And so if everything goes right, they got a website, I believe. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but if you type in that on online, I'm sure you guys will be able to find out where it's at.
All right, very good. And there's producer, director Anthony Bruno, Wrestling with Disaster. I found it on Facebook.com/Wrestling with Disaster.
Yeah, and you can get updates and see what they're doing with it and the whole deal. I hope that it goes through. I think it'd be a pretty neat deal.
Very good. We'll keep an eye out for it.
Be a movie of shoots.
Very good.
Nice. Well, Fred Ottman, we appreciate it. Thanks once again. Our fans appreciate it. We'll definitely be spreading the word about joining your Facebook page. I know I checked out a lot of the photos you had on there. Some great stuff. We'll make sure to send that along with our listeners. And once again, folks, we got Fred Ottman. Thanks again so much for joining us tonight, man.
Oh, you're very welcome. Anytime, guys. Anytime.
All right. You have a good night.
You too, guys. Bye.
Well, there you have it, folks. Fred Ottman in its entirety. Once again, Tugboat, Typhoon, the legendary Shockmaster. He was all over the territories as well. Scum, a couple of bits of information that I didn't know about, so I was really glad to have him on today to kind of clear up a few things about his start in the business and how he got to WWF, and then moving on.
Absolutely, Steve. Sorry I wasn't with you there for a second. I was changing into my striped sailor shirt and my hat because I'm pretty excited about this whole Scum Masters thing. Hoping to take a run at the tag team straps. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. I'll be in your corner the whole way. That's great stuff.
Yeah, you can get one of those big hats and the shades like the Grand Wizard.
A turban, and those 80s, like, obscure-looking sunglasses, which were fantastic. He may have made them popular.
Either that or one of the traditional Middle Eastern headdresses, and we can call you the Ayatollah Steve. You could get out there and cut some serious Adnan promos.
Oh, man, I've been working on my General Adnan for years. One of my favorite promos ever. Never understood a word he said except for Sergeant Slaughter and a couple other obscure words in English, but I always loved his promos. Anybody that just screams in another language again, that's entertainment to me, folks. That's sports entertainment at its finest. Just screaming in a language that nobody even understands.
Absolutely. And again, who could not agree with Baklak, Aklak, Beat, Bop, Boop?
Well, I mean, I think that covers pretty much the whole gambit of classic professional wrestling in one sentence.
Absolutely. So moving on to Fred Ottman, great stuff there, Steve. Who knew that he was such a fleet-footed dancer there? Everyone got to check out that dance-off that he spoke of with Rocky Johnson. Great stuff, hilarious stuff. Just a lot of who knew all the great names that Fred had worked with. What a great guy, funny guy, some hilarious impersonations. Although there was one on there that I'm not sure about you. I don't know exactly who the hell he was trying to impersonate, but great Macho Man. He threw in with the Undertaker question. All of a sudden in mid-sentence, he throws in a Paul Bearer moan. You got Hulkamania running wild. I mean, obviously, all of a sudden, Dusty Rhodes is on the horn answering one of the questions. What a great guy. What a fun guy. I mean, that's what it's all about. A guy, even with the Shockmaster stuff, I mean, great sense of humor, real lighthearted. What a pleasure to have Fred on today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, I can't disagree with you more, Scum. And you know what's kind of ironic is throughout the week, of course, we have to do our teasers, and we have to let people know what's coming up on the show this week. And it's always great when a guy like Fred Ottman that has a great sense of humor kind of contributes to our page. He had made a comment to somebody earlier this week that had mentioned that he would go fishing or something with the Undertaker. He dispelled that rumor immediately. So we wanted to thank him for just being on our page and giving us a read, and of course, following everything that we do at WGD Weekly, and of course over at Wrestling's Glory Days. So we wanted to thank Fred Ottman just overall for being a nice guy, for being on our show. And it's kind of interesting, Scum, as we recorded this, like I said, a little ways back prior to the recent pay-per-view, the WWE. But he was talking about a couple of the things in the current storyline, of course, being, I think it was a marital relation to Dusty Rhodes and the Rhodes family. So it was kind of interesting to see from the inside what was going on there. And we watched it play out right in front of us over the last couple of weeks on television. And, of course, that certainly is one of the most compelling storylines in the current product. So very interesting to once again kind of tie in one of the great performers from the glory days of wrestling into the current product and have it be relevant.
Absolutely. I got him. That was cool to hear him talk about his keeping up with the current product and watching Raw. Another thing, Steve, that I thought was hilarious. Wonder if there's any footage of that pie eating contest out there. I'd love to see Fred belly up at the table and dig into a coconut cream and stare down Roseanne Barr while he's doing it. I got to admit, my money, and no offense to Fred, my money would be on Roseanne Barr because she is an absolute savage.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure she can knock down a couple of pies in the wink of an eye.
Yeah, with that voice that cuts through your spine like nails on a chalkboard. To be honest with you, if I could see anything out of Hogan and Tugboat and that, see Tom Arnold step aside, Roseanne get a running start toward the pie, and then the Hulk catch her with that big boot to the face, cup the ear to the crowd so everyone cheers, and then Fred could bounce off the ropes and splash the living shit right out of Roseanne. I think anyone would argue with that.
Not at all. As long as she's not doing a DiBiase-style fist drop into a coconut cream.
Yeah, that's right. You haven't lived and you haven't experienced the Lucha Libre style until you've seen the Roseanne Canrana.
Oh, boy, you beat me to the punch. The Rosanna Conrana. I was just thinking the same thing. That's hilarious.
Is that kind of like the Rosanna Dana whatever back in the old SNL days, the Conrana? I guarantee that she would bring a whole new meaning, and one that I don't necessarily care to see, to the term moonsault.
Oh, boy. Oh, Scum, it's been a wild show, man. I once again really appreciate everybody listening. And, Scum, it's always a pleasure working with you, man. You're doing a great job here together. And I wanted to say that we have another just exciting guest coming up next week, the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. And, again, we know this guy's got some stories to tell, Scum.
Absolutely. Ivan Koloff, the man who ended Bruno's legendary 7.5-year run, former WWF champion. Name's been tossed out there for a possible candidate for this year's Hall of Fame class. I wouldn't be surprised if we touch on that with him at some point. The years he teamed with his nephew, Nikita, just the stories there have got to be endless. I mean, being the Russian, the foreigner gimmick during a time when people weren't so privy to what was going on with the business. I'm sure much like Larry Zbyszko, Ivan had a few times that he had to fight for his life out there, so that'll be interesting to see. And to be honest with you, knowing the man, I wouldn't be surprised if he was sat down with us. You look up and he's busted open from ear to ear across his forehead.
I'm just hoping neither one of us are. And again, Scum, I'm not going to say much more on this, but, I'm getting married soon, and Ivan Koloff, ordained minister.
Well, let's just say your old pal of Scum might be one step ahead of you there, my friend. He's always got your back. Your girl is a good friend of mine as well, Andy. I always got her back. You guys are the best. And, hey, if I can wind up with somebody in a red singlet up at the altar, reciting the vows, we'll leave the chains at home. You know, nobody needs to wind up bleeding in that setting, but you never know. We'll see what happens.
Well, I know that when I'm going to walk that aisle, I got my best Scum and a whole troop of savages coming with me, so I'm really happy about that. And I'll tell you, the only one that's going to walk out of that wedding in any sort of a chain is going to be Steve, and I'll tell you that much right now. And I'm very happy about that, too, because my fiancée is one heck of a gal, Andy. She puts up with a lot of Steve's crap, and when you and I are together, she puts up with a lot of Steve and the Scum's crap, too. So hats off to her for dealing with us. We really appreciate everything that she brings to the table as well, along with a lot of the guys from Wrestling's Glory Days. Our international correspondent, Matt's always there, posting great stuff for us on our page. So thanks once again, guys, for listening. It's been a great show. We're going to cut it off a little bit short this week. Both myself and the Scum have a lot of craziness going on. We're going to be back in full force next week with the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. Sit down and set some time aside for that one. That one's going to be at least a 2-hour program. So, guys, want to thank you again. Should be a 2-parter on iTunes. Let's work forward from here. Let's try to get all this stuff down in one show. But, guys, we're not going to edit the show just to make a time slot. You know, we're not going to make it an hour-long show and then miss out on a bunch of information. So let's plan on a 2-parter on iTunes next week, a 2-hour-plus program on YouTube. Thanks once again for joining us. Scum, before we head on down the road, you got anything to add?
Just thanks to the laundry list that I read off earlier there, the Midnight Jury guys, the Shining Wizards, Wrestling Observer, Figure 4 Weekly Online, Wrestling Inc., Online World of Wrestling, all the sites that got the word out about WGD Weekly with Steve The Scum, all the boys, like you mentioned, the whole team at Wrestling's Glory Days. Always great to be working with you guys. We really appreciate it. One more thing, when you were just saying, just for her own entertainment purposes, you were just saying how Andy has to put up with some of Steve and the Scum stuff. Given a Koloff tie-in, you know, if she gets out of line, Steve, I give you all the permission in the world to, once she turns around, have her walk right into a Russian sickle, all right?
I appreciate it. I will definitely give her the Russian sickle as soon as possible, but my fear is that she no-sells it and stands up and gives me that flex with those huge traps, because if anybody on this planet's got a bigger set of traps than Nikita Koloff, it's my old lady.
Right. Maybe getting back to our Lucha Libre style, maybe we'll see that Andy Conrana.
The Andy Conrana, or the super kick. I think I'm training her to do that new Fandango off the top rope leg drop.
Yeah, well, you know, you try as you will. I don't think anyone, HBK included, has a more lightning-like super kick than the Scum. So
That's awesome stuff. Scum, it's been a wild ride once again. Thank you, my man. Always been a great pleasure working with you. The questions that we ask on this show come straight from the heart. Great stuff. We got guys all over the planet helping us out, so we wanted to say thank you once again to everybody that makes the show possible. WGD Weekly with Steve The Scum. And Scum, I think after the Ken Shamrock interview, it's very safe to say...
It's very safe to say what I always say. The Scum, Steve, WGD Weekly, Wrestling's Glory Days on Facebook is the latest sensation that's sweeping the wrestling radio nation, baby. Thank you to Fred Ottman for being our guest this week. Had a lot of fun with him. Tune in next week. The Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff, former WWF champion. Great show coming up for you next week. Also, you never know. Stay tuned to Facebook. Stay tuned to both sites, Wrestling Glory Days and Glory Days Weekly, because maybe there will be a surprise iron in the fire if everything works out midweek. So other than that, that's all I got. I'd like to say thank you to our loyal supporters. WGD Nation, Scum Nation is growing. It's growing worldwide, brother.
Hashtag Scum Nation. Guys, gals, get your Russian chains wrapped around your fist next week and get ready to bleed. We got Ivan Koloff. Until then, keep an eye out on our page. Like the Scum says, we always have surprises for you. A lot of irons in the fire. Thanks once again for listening. We'll see you next week.